Good morning, River Rocks Church. Hope everyone's having a good morning so far. My name's Trent. I'll be in the scripture with you today. We're going to be in Job chapter 39. Now, Job chapter 39 is a continuation of Job chapter 38, where God came to Job after a whirlwind or after a tough circumstance for Job. And God is allowing for Job to understand the knowledge that he has over all circumstances. Now, in chapter 39, we're going to see that God's going to go into specific animals, and he's going to talk about the knowledge he has over these animals. And he's going to make it really simple for us. He's not going to make it complicated. We're going to go through the specific animals, and then we're going to talk about how we as believers can read into this and know what it means for us. Verses 1 through 4, God's speaking of the wild mountain goat, the birth of a wild mountain goat. Now, he's making it really simple. If Job were to witness this birth, he would know everything that God's speaking of through verses 1 through 4. But he doesn't even have that knowledge. He doesn't even have the simple knowledge of the birth of the goat. And what God is doing in this circumstance is saying that just because Job doesn't understand does not mean that God does not understand. God understands this creation. He understands that this creation will serve him, their creator. As believers, we must also serve our creator. We must serve the one who is above us, the one that knows us, the one that's created us and knows all things. In verses 5 through 8, we see that God speaks of mastering the wild donkey. Now, Job had no knowledge of the donkey, and he definitely had no power over the donkey. But what we're going to see is that God did. God has the power over his creation. God has the knowledge of his creation. These things belong to God, not to Job. Would Job be able to ride this creation? Would he be able to use this creation? Yes. But in no means did this creation serve Job. It served God, the creator. Verses 9 through 12, we see that God's going to speak about mastering the wild ox, a strong creation of the Lord. Now, in verse 9 it says, will the wild ox be willing to serve you? Speaking to Job. Job, we know, is a very smart guy. And his intelligence is not going to be the reason that something should serve him. His intelligence doesn't give reason for the ox to serve Job. We see that the ox is going to serve one being, God, the creator. He's going to serve God, the creator, the strong ox, not Job. No matter whether Job attempts, he tries to wrangle him up, it's just not going to happen because God has the power over his creation. Verses 13 through 18, we're going to hear about the ostrich. God is asking Job, do you understand the ostrich? Why is this important? Now, the ostrich has wings but cannot fly, right? For Job to look onto that, it may not make sense at this time. But we see that God talks about being the dispenser of wisdom. The ostrich doesn't fly because it doesn't have the wisdom to do so. God is the dispenser of wisdom. For us, he can grant us wisdom. For us, he can allow for us not to see a circumstance how it's supposed to until it is his time. Until it is the time of the Lord is when we're granted that wisdom. And verses 19 through 25, we see the Lord's going to talk about mastering the horse. Now, it's a really interesting description we're going to see in Job because God's going to go over how the horse is a warrior. The horse has the heart and mind of a warrior. Now, Job, like many of us, can be impressed by the strength of a horse. If any of you have tried to even mount a horse, it can be a very terrifying thing because this horse has so much strength and it has the mindset of a warrior. Now, he had no strength to give to the horse. He couldn't control the strength of this horse. And it came from God, not man. The strength of this horse was from our creator, not from man. We can't give the horse a certain regimen to make it infinitely stronger. But we have to trust that God created this horse to have the strength that it has. And that Job could not master the horse. Now, verses 26 through 30 is going to be, do you understand or master the hawk or the eagle? Now, we see the entire time God has been talking about land animals. Now he's going to be talking about the majesty of the creatures that can fly. Job could not explain or create the mechanics of flight at this time. Imagine this, way back in the olden times, being able to see a bird and try to fathom how it's flying. Try to fathom how it's doing what it's doing. The reality is that God had this knowledge. He created that bird to fly. He gave that bird the wisdom to fly. Now, Job was equally as powerless to explain the eagle as he was the hawk. Now, through the entirety of this chapter, we see that God did not come to judge Job in this circumstance, but as a teacher. He came to teach Job about creation and his hand and knowledge and power over creation. He came to educate Job on the power that God has and to show him the uniqueness of his power in creation, that every piece of creation is unique. Now, this should have given Job comfort, and for us, we should find comfort in the demonstration of God's power over creation, because the same God that made the tree, the same God that made the donkey, the same God that made the hawk, created us. That God created us, gave us the ability to have wisdom, gave us the ability to have strength, gave us the ability to have knowledge. That's what God gave to us. Now, our God, who has the mountain goat bowing before him, who has set free the wild donkeys, our God who controls the strength of the mighty ox, who controls the gift of wisdom over creation, who masters the warrior nature of the horse, who created the majestic nature of the eagle and hawk. That God, our God in heaven, also created us. He knows the hairs on our head. He knows the thoughts in our mind. He knows the intent of our heart. And his will be done. That is what he wants from us. He put us on this earth with a purpose. He put us on this earth to do his will and to one day return to him as sons and daughters of God, faithfully. Now, my heart for you today is that you don't worry like Job over the whirlwinds that life might bring you. After hearing what God does have control over, we should be confident that our God will protect us. James 1:3 says that the testing of our faith produces perseverance. When we're tested, we have the ability to be faithful or to fall short. If you're tested this week, if you're tested this morning, or for any other day that you might have, my prayer is that you understand that the testing of your faith will allow for your faith to be stronger, or it can allow for your faith to be weaker. But that part falls on you. We have the ability to turn and say, God, allow your strength to be my own. Let me lean into you. But we can also say, God, I want nothing to do with what you have for me. I pray that today and the rest of this week you lean onto the Lord through all things, the creator of all great animal and nature.